Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Jeff Bezos was relatively young, pursuing his career in finance during the beginnings of the internet boom. He had been watching computers get better and better, and a number of companies beginning to sell their services online. And he had a good hunch that people would want to buy from the internet, and that was the future of retail. And this inspired Jeff. Jeff saw an opportunity and began to dream. Jeff was a Wall Street banker for a hedge fund, and Mackenzie Scott a research associate for the same hedge fund, and was pursuing a writing career. In 1994, Jeff Bezos and his then wife, Mackenzie Scott, decided to quit their relatively well-paying jobs to move across the country and start an online bookstore now known as Amazon. So they packed up their bags from their nice home in New York and moved across the country to Bellevue, Washington. Why Washington? Washington had a small population, which meant a bunch of stuff I don't understand about taxes or something at the time, so Amazon could avoid paying sales tax to most US customers. But how were they going to pay for all this? Sure, they had well-paying jobs, and I'm sure they had money in their accounts, but if they really wanted to shoot for the stars, they needed more money than that to get it off the ground. And Jeff knew exactly where to go for that money. He would ask his mom and dad, friends and family if they would like to invest in his online bookstore, and they did. So in 1995, Jacqueline and Miguel gave Jeff's mom and dad invested $250,000. It is said that that was most of their savings, and Jeff told him straight up that they would probably lose it. But I do wonder about this information. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, why not subscribe? According to Jeff, both parents were very supportive, both emotionally and financially, during his entrepreneurial journey.
There's a video of you from the early days of Amazon, giving a tour of your, quote, sort of offices. I think your dad is holding the camera.
He is, yeah, okay. I know, right? Yes. This is what the giant orange extension cord, and yeah.
And you're like explaining the genius of the extension cord and how this is a desk and the CRT monitor, and sort of that's where all the magic happens. I forget what your dad said, but this is like the center of it all.
If I knew who Jeff Bezos was.
And what did you say?
I said, no, the name kind of sounds familiar, but I don't know.
So Amazon was launched and began to grow and expanded quickly. After a few years of successfully selling books, they moved on to what Jeff always knew they would move on to, basically everything. And the rest is sort of history. Now Amazon is one of the top companies in Forbes and one of the biggest retailers in the world. You see, there is no doubt in my mind, without those initial investments from his friends, family, and specifically his mom and dad, that somebody else would have beat him to the punch. There were other online retailers at the time, of course.
Product to sell online, you're making a list of like 20 different products that you might be able to sell. And books were great as the first best, because books are incredibly unusual in one respect, and that is that there are more items in the book category than there are items in any other category by far.
It was only a matter of time before internet shopping technology caught on, and Jeff saw that. Jeff creating Amazon and pursuing selling books online made them the right company with the right people behind it at the right place and time. Of course, Jeff had a dream that he pursued. Of course, they worked very, very hard, did their research, and got their investments, and he was well rewarded. But let me ask you this. Could you ask your parents for $250,000? As a bit of a side thought about Jeff Bezos, is what puzzles me is that unlike some of these other billionaire supervillains, in my opinion, is that he does seem aware of many of his life advantages and how lucky he got it, both by having parents that loved him and treated him well, raised him to become the person that he became, and how lucky he had to be to get to where he is today. And you can see this in many of his old interviews and inspirational talks, even some of the more recent stuff. And his dad is a Cuban refugee. And they even released this cool video on the Amazon YouTube channel about Jeff's dad and him fleeing from Cuba when he was a kid and having to go to the US because things were changing in Cuba and everything was going federal and turning into this place that you really don't want to live. So when you look at all that and you see all the things that he's said, like the Lex Fridman podcast is one that comes to mind, it really makes me wonder, how does he end up doing the things that he's allegedly done with his businesses and the way that you hear Amazon treats their workers and all these negative things? Because unlike other tech billionaires that you could maybe argue are actually horrible sociopath, awful human beings, I don't know if Jeff actually is. He actually kind of doesn't seem like it to me, which is almost scarier because then you think about how powerful greed is, and the greed is what led him to allegedly do some of the awful stuff that he's accused of. Why not subscribe?